all of your life experience is to help you grow, change, and possibly improve. And I think we overthink so much, and we have to get back to basics. If you have friends and family that love, and trust, and you're having a moment, our first thought is, gosh, I don't want to bother anyone with my shit. But you know what? There's someone right there right now who may need just to give good advice right now, and they can't figure out who to give it to. God said you need to touch someone today, and that person knows they're ready to touch you, and that was a divine appointment that you missed. So stop shrinking into the negative and realize that you are here for a reason. You're a miracle. Do you know how unlikely it is for you to become an actual human being? Just the process? Do you know the math? There's millions of possibilities, and then it became you.
Hello, Tom. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Ostra. It's a pleasure.
I I want to start with, it's really interesting. I had recently one of my podcast guests, and we went quite deep in a conversation. He said it was his favorite question, which is the first question that I ask everybody in alignment with the podcast, which is about chasing the impossible. What is something that at some point felt impossible for you and now is your new normal?
Um, hmm. I think that one thing that was a big challenge is for me to see my value in the marketplace and how I could communicate that. Um, and I used to be self-absorbed as an entrepreneur. So once I started to transition to adding value, now I attract more opportunities and more great people than I ever have in my life.
What do you think was getting in your way to see your value?
Um, well, I think all of us question our self-worth sometimes, especially, when we're kids, maybe there's a traumatic event, maybe we just don't get enough love and attention and hugs. I mean, whatever it might be, everyone's situation is different. But I always have that, a lot of us have that little inner voice that says, don't call him. They'll say no. Don't go to that networking event. That no one wants to hear what you have to say, or don't take this action, or whatever it might be. So I'm so grateful now that I have been on an enlightenment journey for about 5 years to understand humanity, young and old, in a whole new way. And that's what I look forward to getting into with you in a minute.
So, okay, so with this, how do you have any? Well, it's kind of two-part question. One is what helped you to navigate your journey with that voice or having those doubts, because it's something that I often try to go a bit deeper in a sense that, oh, I had doubt and now I don't, but it's like, what's the journey? Not even don't.
Mm-hmm.
It's even like how you deal with it now differently than before because it might still be there. Is there something that helped you to navigate it, especially at the beginning when it's seemingly the loudest? And do you have any advice with somebody who might be in a place where they're doubting themselves, they're not sure of themselves, especially when they have proof around them that it actually isn't true, but it still feels true?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think for me, one of the things that has happened is I started to understand that as the more I work on me, the more value I add to the universe. So whether it's going to networking events or training events or learning about AI online or reading a great book or audio book or a great video. I've seen thousands of great videos that have had an internal impact on my wiring, and it's a constant. The little inner voice will never go away, but the more great info you put in your mind, it pushes it away. It pushes it down. It makes it quiet, right? And so my advice to anyone, young or old, is surround yourself with people who are already where you want to be, or they're driven for a better life like you. So we talk about the five, right? The five people you associate with the most, you'll never make more than 10% of more or less of what they earn. That's just a statistical fact. Are there anomalies? Yes. It happens. There are some people, you may have four friends that they all have jobs, and, you have $1 million corporation, whatever, it happens. So mentorship, coaching, um, self-development, all of those key pieces, you have to keep growing or you're dying.
One thing that I have learned about um, that voice, I actually had a conversation where, like, I have an Olympic athlete that I'm working with, and I wrote my friend, I was like, I don't think I deserve it. I don't think I'm good enough. Even though she keeps coming back, we continue working, and it's a and it was interesting where, like, it stopped myself in tracks when he asked me, um it was like kind of the question along the lines of like, why why though? Like, why do you feel that way? And it's kind of like something about that question made me stop and be like, well, actually, there's no real reason. And there's something that I have learned about that voice, because there was a time when it was really strong. It still can be strong, but at this point, I think it's kind of like the more you work on yourself, the less that voice can affect you, where you can take action despite it being there. And I think partly it's managing expectations of even like people that I have worked with, where they have that expectation for it not to be there. But it's like, it might still be there, but it's what's our relationship with it? And then adjusting that can help to actually go and take the action despite having it. And it's something that has helped me, because I would be in a place where I'm like, well, I would expect to feel confident to do something, or have this like undeniable self-confidence that I got this, and I there's no questions, but it's a lot of it is so deeply rooted that it's still there. And it might in some ways still be holding me back, but it's not holding me back from taking action, which it did before. So it's kind of like stepwise progression. And I think, can you maybe talk on that relationship with that voice, or that part of ourselves that is like, you're not good enough, or you're not there yet, and you don't deserve it?
Well, one of the things that you said that kind of stuck out for me, first of all, I wanted to say you must embrace your light and darkness. Okay, you must embrace the inner voice that says you're not enough, and you got to love them and make fun of them. Say, oh, I hear you. You're an idiot. I just got this Olympic athlete. You need to shut up. You know what I mean? Okay. So that's where my thought comes from, is that the more you do, the more you become, and we're human beings, not human doings. And so one of the things you need to remember is you need to sit and ruminate and think about what all that you've learned, and be grateful for the new superpowers you have. And we forget, you're like, I now have 5 skill sets that I didn't have 10 years ago. And I have an Olympic athlete and other people who know, like, and trust me and pay me. So that's validation for you in a tangible way as well. So I want to share something that you and I met here on a podcast group through Facebook, a month or so ago. I want you to see you the way I see you. You're brilliant. Um, English is your second language, but or maybe even a fifth. But you are great. And you have incredible energy, and I know that you so desperately want to make a difference in so many lives. And I see you, and I see the work you're doing, and it's people like you that change the energy of the planet, and people can't understand that. And it's like, when you're in negativity and you're in complaining and you're in a situation where life isn't good, or this situation isn't good, you're giving it more power, which simply, and we've heard this before, what you resist persist. The harder you push against that which you do not want, the more it's coming to you. Like, you know what, life sucks and I can't make any money and I don't like myself, and you just get more of that. So they say spelling or spells or words or spells. Your subconscious mind only wants to keep you safe. It doesn't know anything other than what you feed it. So if you feed it life and love and joy and knowledge and collaboration and contribution, it gets reprogrammed. And so one of my favorite people on the planet, his name's Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he talks very much about creating your own personal reality. And then when you put those words together, that becomes your personality. So who you are today, Astra, is not who you were when we first met. You're a different person today than you were then. And that was just weeks ago. Well, so am I. My 9 podcasts since we last spoke has changed my life in a way I can't quantify because of the energy exchange with all of those beautiful people, and all 9 of them are friends.
So, creating your own personality and reality. Where do one start with that?
Well, I'm going to just give examples, easy examples. Okay. The late, great Dr. Wayne Dyer has tons of videos and tons of books, and he talks about become the change you want in yourself. He talks about ego. Ego is edging God out. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day named Gail Kraft. She considers herself a soul realignment practitioner. And we only have 2 wills we can live in: primal and free will. Primal wills when we're in flow with source, God, the universe, life is good, people love us, we're giving good vibes, we're getting good vibes. Free wills when ego gets involved, and then we need to mess with the plan, that we shift the energy, we shift the focus, we shift the direction of our experience away from that which is completely natural and already divined for us.
You mentioned an interesting thing about the ego getting involved and messing with the plan. It's something that I read the book Surrender Experiment. I don't even think I finished it. I was listening it in audio, but I got what I needed from it a few years ago. And that's actually how I got to coming to Estonia, because I came to visit my friend here, and that weekend I was like, oh, I kind of like it here. And my friend was like, oh, if you move here, we could do this, we could do that. I'm like, slow down. I'm just like considering. And then after that weekend, when I got home, she messaged me like, oh, by the way, if you want to move, I have a friend who's looking for somebody to rent a flat. And at the time, I was like, I had just, I think, listened that book where he was talking about his experiment to surrender to like whatever comes his way. It's like instead of trying to make sense of it or trying to force things that you think should happen. Like in my case, it was right after my plan or idea to go to Canada fell through. And I was waiting for like 8 months, studying remotely, staying up until 6 a.m. I was like complete zombie mode until like I got second visa rejection. And I was like, okay, I guess that is not happening. But I knew that I wanted to go somewhere or move somewhere. And I didn't want to go back to UK because there was no snow. And since then I had gotten into the winter swims. So that's where I needed to have some winter or some cold so I can continue that like mental practice. And with that, like what happened is that there's several things that has happened even the last year's half Ironman, where if I try to think about it logically, does it make sense to do it? Not really. Plenty of time. It's really expensive sport. I had many things going on at that period, but it's kind of like tuning into your intuition and trusting that journey and being like, okay, whatever I feel like is the right thing to do, even if it doesn't make sense, it's and finding that balance, because sometimes we have some dumb ideas. But even like trusting that we're this year for me, like last weekend I sat down and I finally put on my wall the I have yearly calendar where you can oversee the year. And I had this idea come to me to in September go to Tokyo to World Championships. And I was like, okay, any what do I need to do? Okay, I need to create my website. I need to do this. I need to reach out to more athletes so I have more people to work with. Um, and something about it before would be like, don't even put it there. You don't know if it can happen. There's no guarantees. Now I'm like, I'm just open. I'm gonna put it there. And there's many things that I have put there that I was like, there's no way I can make it happen. And it happens. And I'm like, wait, what? And there's something about it where I talk about that concept of commit before you're ready. Can you talk about kind of trusting that process, ego, involvement, and kind of how do you navigate it? How you distinguish which one is the path and which is your ego getting in a way and trying to force things or control things?
Well, I think sometimes for me, it's easy. You know, when I'm feeling resistance and discomfort with a communication or a person or a situation, and I'm feeling like, wow, this just doesn't seem like it's going to work out. And I'll give you an example. I do real estate, and I'll tell everyone a little bit more about myself in a minute. But we're trying to get in the house, and the tenant's getting ready to move out, and she's been absolutely uncooperative, and it took us 2 weeks to get in the house. That's not the kind of flow I want to be in, because the expectations weren't set well with the seller and the tenant before I got involved. But the point I wanted to make is, um, when we're doing and taking action, sometimes we need to sit back and let the actions speak for themselves and not fix it and use the word surrender. I like to use the word allowing. I'm very much in an allowing place right now. And I'm going to quote this song from a band. You may want to write this down. You probably have no idea who this is, but you might. The name of the band is Rush, Rush. And one of my favorite song lyrics is, even when you choose not to decide, you have still made a choice. So sometimes doing nothing is exactly what you're supposed to do. And if you're deep in ego, you won't see that cue. If your feet are in the grass and you're walking in the sunshine and you're talking to God or universe or source or whatever it is for you, and you're just communing with where you're supposed to be. You're not supposed to be in a flat. We're not supposed to be standing and walking on linoleum. We're supposed to be in the grass and the trees, and there's energy there. Your feet touching the earth, there's energy there. So I always say the easiest thing to do, or the first things to do, is create new basic habits that serve your soul. Like, I put cold water on my face every day. I exercise in my yard. I put my feet in the grass. I wake up and say, thank you, God, for another beautiful day in your beautiful universe. And I set the intention that my day is going to go according to plan, because I'm in love and gratitude and joy.
What to do when you don't feel that way?
Well, I try to laugh. So I put on funny stuff. I try and disconnect. I stop texting and I turn my phone off, and do that. Go for a drive. Go hang out with friends. What have you. But it's inexact. I mean, I get in my head too. I'm not saying I have all the answers. I'm not saying that I do all the work all the time, right? And so just a quick 30-second blurb. I became a full-time entrepreneur in 2004, and I've worked mostly in real estate and social media marketing, and now I've kind of moved into AI/social media marketing and still doing real estate, and started my own podcast in December. So it's been an interesting journey to this point in my life, but I am so honored to be here with you on so many levels, because of the brilliant mind that you have and the bright light you shine.
The with 20, what is it, 21 years as entrepreneur, what have you learned about certainty and uncertainty and navigating things not being certain, predictable, which is
The
big
roll,
piece of being entrepreneur?
right, the roller coaster ride. Okay. If you want to be a successful entrepreneur, You must commit to yourself, mind, body, and soul. But more importantly, you must be consistent until you build momentum. And once you build momentum, multiple streams of income, whatever it is, however it manifests, but you've got to be consistent every day. And I've done some mentoring and teaching other people how to do real estate. And what I say to everyone is like, look, this is new for you. You have a full-time job. You have never done this before. You just gave me $3,000 to teach you for the next 3 months. Here's what I need you to do. I need you to commit to yourself a minimum of 20 minutes a day to learn your new thing, to take the next step. Because once we become an entrepreneur, if we don't create these new habits, 20 minutes, an hour, 3 hours, 5 hours, 5, 6 days a week, it will never happen. Because momentum is easy to build and just as easy to lose. And that's why I'm so excited about being on here, because my momentum led me to this moment. I bring now 9 episodes of my podcast, where I think I had done 1 before we met. And now I don't necessarily feel like a superstar. I just feel like I can do it. I now know I can do it. I've got friends sharing my posts and my videos and then commenting on their videos. And I've got 4,000 views and I've been around for a month and a half. It's not a big number, but gosh, that's 8,000 eyeballs that I didn't have before I met you. So I thank you. It's because of you're in my energy.
It's interesting how doing works, because it's something that even when I talk to some people who I said that I have my own podcast, and they're like, "Wow, you have your own podcast!" And for me, uh, it's interesting because at this point, it feels like one, I know that it's my thing. I enjoy having conversations. I'm naturally really curious, so like I love to go places where there's no scripts. Yeah, yeah, and also you also meet great people. Like to your point about one thing is numbers, which I think numbers just show how good is the content, and also I think if numbers are not there yet, because that's kind of the point to the consistency is podcasting. I think is really good example there is that it's a long term game. Like it's not something that once you start it will instantly be a hit and you'll be Joe Rogan level
Mm-hmm.
and even with him, he has thousands of episodes. It's not like he's posting like once a month.
Mm-hmm.
He's been doing it for like I don't even know, probably decades at this point. And
Yeah, I think it's 15 years. Let me speak on that real
okay,
quick. I caught an episode of him the other day, and he's like, some people are like, "Oh, Joe, you made it big. You got $100 million contract." And he's like, "Dude, I had my freaking phone and my laptop in my apartment in LA, and I'm on a hit show, thank God, but I'm still nobody." And I started there and I kept going and going and going and going. It's like Stephen Bartlett. What he did early on is he set out a massive goal. He said, and I love his accent, he's British, and I lived in England for a couple of years when I was born until I was 3 because my father worked for the US government and had a what they call a PCS over there, permanent change of station, for 3 years. Stephen Bartlett said, I went and spoke to these individuals about my podcast, and I told them I would have the #1 podcast in Europe in the next year. And 5 corporations that he already uses their products backed him, including one funded his podcast. He got $40,000 worth of equipment, cameras all over his room. He's incredibly bright, handsome, and articulate. So he just went to work. Now, not all of us are going to go there. We've got to start small, right? You and I, we're right here. You're in your spot. I'm in my spot. We both like Riverside. That's what we're using. But be patient with yourself and celebrate all wins. I get to celebrate one fact. 90% of podcasters never do more than 5 episodes. I'm in the top 10%. You and I are in the top 10%. How freaking cool is that?
Yeah, I think it's something that even like with Joe's journey, he did it because he liked it. It was a passion. It was something that he enjoyed doing. And I think it can be tricky, especially when we live in a world where everything is monetary, everything is like money. It might be tricky to follow that passion and listen to yourself and trust yourself with this is something that I feel passionate about. I don't know if how it might work out, but I just feel like I want to do it. And I think it actually might help with consistency. Actually, you enjoying it, it can help a lot. Um, but with that consistency, um, it is something that I think as long as you listen to somebody successful, they will mention consistency. And I like to describe competition as or like winning is you take one step more than the person next to you. That's how you win. It's like you keep going until they quit.
Right.
And that's how you win. And
Yep.
but that going, it can get or it can feel so long. And especially when we are really focused on results. Do I get results or I don't get them yet? Instead of focusing on the process. How to navigate that process, especially when you don't see instant results, you don't get that feedback of, let's say with a fitness journey, you start to see results like few weeks in and it gets you going. And how to deal with it when, let's say, it might be few months of you training, exercising, consistency, and you don't see clear results yet. How to trust that process?
Well, it's the easiest way I can put it is the only way to fail at anything that you enjoy doing is to quit. Because what happens with each step you take, and I see it in you already, you're figuring it out. And each time you do it, you are attracting more energy, more people like us. I like to call myself a chosen one, and I don't mean that in an arrogant way. I believe there are very few people who think, act, and talk like I do in my circle. And when I say that word, I mean, I want to have a combination of humanity and spirituality that shines a bright light and brings into my life what I want, right? And so if you just keep going from the passion, the energy exchange will manifest. And in many cases that could relate to money, a new sponsor, a new athlete in your case, in my case, a new private lender who wants me to find them $1 million worth of real estate tomorrow. And so patience is very hard the younger you are, but patience is always going to be a challenge. And I'm 58. I'll be 59 in July. I'll be 60 next year. And I know I don't look a day over 56, but the thing that I really feel excited about is I want to take my 58-year journey and share that with my guests, with my viewers, my listeners, with your guests, because I can't teach you. You're a young woman. I can't teach you 58. I can teach you a lot of stuff. And like I said, if you love it, don't stop doing it, and celebrate the win. Every episode in the bank is, on YouTube counts. Every time you do your 2-3 minutes thoughts, 5-minute thoughts, that's another check. And you just keep adding energy to your piggy bank. And because of who you are and how you are and what you do and the light you shine and the people you attract, it's already exponential. It just hasn't manifested for you yet. So if you stop now, you just missed the breakthrough. And that's the key point here, is if you keep going, there's going to be a day where your mind is blown at the result. I believe that will happen for everybody, or
It's
can.
something that it's something that I there's a guy, his name, well, at the time when I was watching more of his stuff, he likes to call himself Charlie Rocket, and he was talking about the quantum journal. And I really like the way he described it. I literally like just I think it was yesterday that I got back to doing it because I had a conversation with my friend and I was like, oh, this is what I did like back when I was in UK. I kind of want to get back to it. I had this like nice routine around it. I was able to like connect with myself and stuff like that. And pretty much like the process of it is super simple where and I might be butchering the whole thing, but it's the way I do it, where I just write down whatever comes to me that I want to do, want to be, want to have, whatever might be the case. And each day it might slightly change. I just write it down and then I go through it again and I visualize it as if it's happening now. And once it all is done, then I write, and this is coming from him. At the end of it, I write, it's all already done. Time just hasn't caught up yet. And and something about it is even like with doing my podcast, I'm not too concerned at this point about numbers or anything. I'm focused on my craft. I enjoy the conversations I'm having. I'm learning a lot. I know that my closest circle that is amazing people who are like supporting me listening my podcast, but also they get a lot from it. And and I can then have conversations with them about those topics and we can support each other. Or if like I recently had sleep expert on and somebody tells me something about sleep, I'm like, go check out this episode. It helped me. I have improved my sleep just from having that conversation. And then I can have circle of people that I can send if let's say somebody needs help with sleep, I have a connection that I can send them to. And I think it's a lot of times we focus too much on this like one thing or one metric instead of seeing how many things actually are going right. And I think it also can be relevant with focusing on one area in our life that we don't like the way it's going instead of seeing how many other areas we actually are having in a good place where we're intentional and they have been growing. It's just like we focus on this one thing that is not working. It's not where I want it to be. Um, and we can lose the perspective of the bigger picture.
And momentum. One of the things is that, too many times we focus on what's wrong. And Gary Vaynerchuk, one of my favorite people, he says, no, here's what the great entrepreneurs do. They double down on their strengths and they surround themselves with people who are strong where they're weak. So if you keep spending your time on improving your weaknesses, you're missing the beauty of your superpowers.
How to know what are your strengths, weaknesses?
That's a really good question. And I'm going to move my mouth while I come up with my thoughts on it. But, wow. Ask me it again.
How to know what are your strengths and weaknesses?
One thing is the feedback that you've gotten over the years. What do people say about you to you? What you are passionate about. Can that be a superpower or a strength? The other thing is, even a mentor or coach. If I come to you and I'm an Olympic athlete and I think I'm really, really great in these areas, you can see into my world in a way I can't. So I get outside input. And for me, I found that I've been trying to serve too many masters over the years. And focus is one of the things that I would say to everybody is if you want to become a better version of yourself, find something that you're passionate about and do it until you're an expert and learn about it you know, and what's weird is some of the multimillionaires and billionaires in our country are gracious people. You may be able to, connect with them on social media or some other way, and then you get that message that you needed. Or, I've got a friend of mine who's got a relatively young podcast, and he had David Meltzer on. Well, David Meltzer is an influencer, an author, and a successful entrepreneur in America. That's a big get, a big win for him. So, um, I guess to make it as simplistic as I can is be on the lookout for what moves you, and see if that's what God has in store for your plan. And I'll say even something else too, Astra. Um, Pray about it. Get in meditation about it. Show me the way. What is my best use? What is my higher purpose? What is my divine purpose? Can I share with you my divine purpose?
Yeah.
I believe I'm on the earth to elevate, motivate, and educate people in my unique way as I help them on their journey.
The end piece is important.
But I didn't figure it out until I was 45.
How did you figure it out?
Um, it was a combination of inspiration and sharing from my wife. My wife woke up one morning. She said, "Tom, you should call yourself the people conductor." And I said, "Hmm." I said, "Like an orchestra?" She goes, "No, like a train, Tom. You're the guy who puts people on your train, and then you help them get to where they're going." So I have believed and still believe to this day that collaboration is the key to unlimited abundance. So I've been stepping into my purpose and being that train conductor to help drive or carry people to the next station.
How do you, when you work with people, how do you know what is that station, especially when they might not know it themselves?
Um, well, almost everybody has an idea of where they want to go. More often than not, they have no idea how to get there. So I would say that, especially young people, there's so many distractions, and you're in your phone sometimes 10, 12 hours of your waking day. I would say definitely cut back on that because you're missing the beauty of humanity. There's so much going on that's not on your phone or computer, and don't miss those moments because they're for you. Um, but uh, Man, there's so much to unpack there. Um, but I just think that one of the things that we should always do is try to figure out how to make someone else's life a little bit better. And I like to say, I like to try to leave people better than I found them. But it's hard in the beginning. I got into real estate because I wanted to make money. And then over the time I made money, I disliked portions of it. And then as I become a better person, I started to like all of it. And then I realized, you know what, there's more for me. And so I got into podcasting, and now I'm into AI and other things. But, start from, ground zero. Get family members, friends, what are you hearing? What do you think you're good at? And failure is the best teacher. Most people don't start anything because they don't want to fail. And
Yeah.
and fear is false evidence appearing real. And it's natural because I like to call it the program. The program, or the matrix, is designed to keep humanity in a static state. And people like us who break free from the programming and venture outside of school and jobs and stuff like that, it's an uncomfortable place to be. And and that's, I think, one of the things I said to, or maybe you and I may have talked about it before, being comfortable being uncomfortable, right? If you don't do something, I promise you, your today will look a lot like yesterday, and so will your tomorrow. But I mean, if you enjoy your journey the way it is, don't change it. There are a lot of people who work the same job for years, and they love it, and that's cool. I have no, we need you. We need you there for us. But what do you think? What do you think? How is your experience shaped? When did you start to figure out that you had these superpowers?
Um, I think I'm still figuring it out, but big part of it has been the curiosity piece of it.
Of
Because like
course.
usually I describe it, it's curiosity versus judgment, and it's something that has. I would be really curious towards others, which is partly why I am good with like the coaching, helping, and creating safe space for people. Because I'm curious, I'm not judging them. I'm just gathering. The way I describe curiosity is I'm gathering information. I'm a white page and I'm just like gathering information and then I can judge it. But then because of the information I got, I'm like, oh, okay, I see where you're coming from. And then I can have like bit better perspective. Something that has helped me is I remember there was like one good question that I think that's where a lot of it started. Like I started to do study psychology, mindset, that kind of stuff when I was um 15 years old, I think. And initially, like I think, like most people who end up going in psychology, it's like, "What is wrong with me?" kind of thing. And as I was reading, I remember there was like I was reading a lot of books and looking for a lot of answers because I felt like the only resource I could go to was the books. And there was an interesting question in one of the books, which was, "How do you see me?" And at that point, I was that, some of my friends, I was that annoying person who kept asking questions. I kept, like, I read something and I'm like, how do you see me? And then I just message it to like 10 people and I'm waiting their answers and I'm gathering information. And there were really interesting answers. One that I remember is there was one person who said that he sees me as a leader. And I was like, I literally thought I was thinking about it for 2 months. I wasn't even I think I was, like, maybe 16 years old or something like that, and at that time, I was, like, really kinda, like, shy, insecure, and, I thought about it for 2 weeks. I was like, "No, maybe, no." And it's kind of like it's so interesting to get those perspectives. And another interesting answer I had was one person who was like, "Why do you care what others think?" And I'm like, "That's not what it's about. It's for me to see myself from different perspectives and kind of make my perspective of myself broader so that I can kind of evaluate myself." Um, and it's been interesting to see how it has changed because at the very least, every few years, I have this one question that I found that I message people and I get answers. And most recently, it was, I think I was going through like some personal brand course or something where there was one exercise where you had to kind of have three pillars of you. And I was like, well, why not ask people? So I reached out to people in my life that are like the closest or that I'm like in touch with. And I asked them like, how you describe it in like 3 words? And I had some really interesting answers. And also, in many ways, for me, it's impressive to see how observant people are. Because many those years ago, when I asked those first questions, I was like, well, this person doesn't really know me that well. I still gotta ask. I want to get different kind of information. And that answer would be so insightful that I'm like, huh, interesting. I didn't think this person noticed this about me or that
Mm,
about me. And I think that the biggest thing for me definitely has been that curiosity and open-mindedness, and over times dealing with I had like quite fragile ego, partly because of my low self-esteem, where I didn't have people in my life that would call me out. And then I met one person who um, was calling me out, and I was in a place where I was able to receive it. And calling out more in a sense of like, okay, you say you want to do all these things, but you don't do anything about it, kind of thing. It would be just in my mind. I called myself at that time, I was a know it all. I knew everything. I had read all the books and I could tell you what you need to do, but I didn't fully apply it to myself, especially at the things that I would be having some glass ceilings at. And that person really helped me to start to take action and to start to face things and walk me through how you deal with yourself as you go through those things. And big part of it was consistency. And but that's where one is asking others, the other one is kind of connecting with myself, listening more towards myself, and the third thing has been taking action and doing. And that's where I would say it's been interesting to observe myself, because before I was a big reader. I would read all the time. Now I actually read, well, I'm doing 75 hard. So at the very least, I read 10 pages a day, but I'm much more applying. So even if I read less amount wise, I'm applying way more. Where now I'm looking at books as manuals. It's like, okay, what is it that I can actually do from this information? Whereas before, I would be so afraid, I would just be like stuck and I wouldn't take any action. So I would say like reaching out to people that can give the feedback, then listening to myself and trying to connect with myself, ask questions and kind of dig within. And third thing has been taking action. And that's where I get like a lot of answers and understanding of, oh, I don't think I can be a runner. Okay, let's see. Now I have finished 4 half marathons. I have marathon coming up. So it's, and I'm still struggling with that being a runner. I don't think I'm a runner, but I have 4 medals of like races that I
Right.
have finished. And even that, it's an interesting journey, because by going through that, I can help others to understand it and navigate it, because I have gone through it. I'm still going through it. I probably will forever go through it, because there's many levels to go through. So those 3 probably have been the main pillars for me.
Nice. Nice. And they all make perfect sense. And the big thing is action kills fear. Massive action kills fear. Oh, I want to do a podcast. Okay, great. Well, do you have any friends that have businesses that will sponsor you for $50, $100, whatever a month? You, just start thinking outside the box. Um, but action is the key to all of this. And I've heard this on social media a few times now. Everything, the magic of your life and everything you've ever dreamed of is on the other side of the work you haven't done.
How to I want to dig a bit more into this, because then I have learned and I know how important action is now. But some years ago, I would be like, I know what I need to do. And when I would do, it would be so tiny and it would be so still within my comfort zone that, and I would be frustrated because I read all this information, then I go try something out, nothing is changing, and I would feel stuck, which now looking back, I just didn't take the right action or big enough action or uncomfortable enough action. How to deal with, or how to start taking action when that fear, it can feel like this enormous wall that you don't think you can get over. You don't see a way around it. It feels like it's literally paralyzing you. How to navigate that? How to start taking action?
Wow, that's a good one. I think Nike said it best. Just do it. I mean, that's really when it comes down to, and there's a lot of people, we use the terms analysis paralysis or paralysis by analysis. You can learn and learn and learn and learn and learn, and there are some really brilliant professors who've never done anything other than taught people or maybe wrote a few books, and that's fine. But if they had applied half of what they've taught, they would have had a greater impact on humanity. Right? So what I try and tell everybody is don't shrink away from attention and your purpose. Continue digging, continue figuring it out, continue taking action. You even said before something about taking the right action. There is no right action for action takers. There's only the next action. And you either learn or you succeed, but you can never fail if you're an action taker. You either learn a lesson. Oh, that shit. That's not it. Excuse me. That's not it. That's not where I want to go. And then you change your course. So you have a choice. Do you want to be a ship on the ocean and continue to change your course? Or do you want to be a jellyfish and let the ocean take you?
I'm thinking with the I was thinking what could be the barriers towards taking action, because it's something that I know that at the place where I was, if you would tell me just do it, I would be like, sure, easy for you to say. You don't have this, that, and I would have like plenty of lists, like the whole list of things in my mind, kind of that ceiling that I have put on myself. I think something that might be valuable to talk about here is that, like what you said about right versus next action, and I think big part of it is relationship with failure or what we perceive as failure, and how that can play a role in taking action. Like good example I have is my half Ironman, where and we definitely will need to touch on mentors as well because that's been a big one for me. I was before the race. It's like 1 week before the race, and I had a call with my client who has done half Ironman, and he was like, "Have you tried your nutrition or have you sorted it?" I'm like, "No." "Have you done transitions?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "You need to do that." And I have 1 week until the race, and it's not like a minor like race. It's big endurance race, and that's when I was like, I don't know if I can actually do it. Like for the first time, I was like, I don't think I can finish it. I haven't figured it out. I don't know what I will do on the race day. And it's something that I think I got the first time of it actually clicking when I was doing Tony Robbins Firewalk. I met like two German ladies there, and we're standing in this like huge line to get there. And one of them has done plenty of firewalks, and she's kind of like looking, and she's like, "Oh, this is that kind of firewalk. I have done it, and like there's this kind of different kinds." Meanwhile, I'm just standing in line. I'm just like being calm, and she's like, "Why are you so calm? Have you done this before?" I'm like, "No." She's like, "Aren't you afraid?" I'm like, "Not really." It's kind of like I will, or like she's like, "Do you know you can do it?" I'm like, "No, I have never done it before." Like what I will do is once I get to that point, that's when I will see whether I can do it or I can't. And it was really similar with the half Ironman race, where right before the race day, I didn't feel any stress. Knowing even the race day, I probably was more calm than people that were coming to support me. They were like checking all the times and everything. I was super calm, no stress, no nothing. And I have never done it. I don't know if I can actually finish it. And and I think that's where I had that mindset shift of it's not whether I'm gonna succeed or fail. Because that week before, I actually after that call, I put my before and after pictures next to each other. And that was only like 85 days in between. And I was like, whoa, I have insane progress. First of all, I'm already winning. I have the best endurance. I'm in best shape that I have probably been when it comes to endurance. I have never been able to do anything like this. And even the journey that I was on in those like 3 months, like that was intense. But then on the race day, I was like, well, and this is something that I got from my mentor, is that it's not the be all end all. It's your first attempt. So what you will do at the very least is find where you are within 90 days of the prep. That's the first thing. And secondly, you will learn way more than if you could if you just sit and think about it of what will I need to keep in mind and what is it that could go wrong and all this kind of stuff. I will learn way more, even if I would fail, which I didn't, I finished. But it's if I would assume that I can't do it in 90 days, didn't sign up, I wouldn't even be able to prove myself that I can do it. And I think big part of for me was that change in the way I look at failure. It's like I'm already in the best shape endurance wise that I have ever been. I will find out if I can do it or not. And I was also documenting the whole thing. So if I fail, people that follow me are gonna see. They're gonna see that I fail. And so how to is there something that has helped you or people that you have worked with to navigate or change that shift in our relationship with failure, or the way we even perceive it or look at it, so that it can support our taking action? Because I think big part for me has been the shift in how I perceive failure when it
Mm.
comes to taking action.
Well, that's a huge piece of this whole puzzle is um, action is it's unnatural for some people. And as I mentioned earlier about the subconscious mind, your subconscious mind doesn't want you to be too much of an explorer and an adventurer, because it's always trying to figure out, hey, are we going to be safe? Are we going to die from this race? It doesn't
Which,
always.
by the way, when you sign up, you have to sign a waiver that you might die and you're aware of it.
Right, of course. And so, I think sometimes humans, we overthink everything to a certain extent. If you're as curious as you and I are, like I'm reading, I'm listening to audiobooks, I'm watching clips and videos on YouTube all the time because I was blessed with an eidetic, or what you call a photographic memory. So
Oh.
I have the God-given ability to create a mental visual imprint of numbers and places and faces. And that's a gift. And at the same time, some people don't understand how the human brain works. So every once in a while, you'll hear someone say to you, "Oh my God, I'm terrible with names." Well, it's a scientific fact. 100% of humanity is terrible with names because within 43 seconds, if I haven't transferred someone's name that I just met to long term memory, in 43 seconds, it will be gone forever. So if I meet Robin and I say, "Hey, Robin, how are you?" And then I say, "Wow, man, in my back of my mind, I like Robins." Next thing I know, 30 seconds later, I've transferred it to long term memory and I don't forget Robin's name. So when it comes to fear and action and all those things, you probably want to educate yourself on the human brain. And maybe I even have you put this in the description. But my friend, I call him the brain training guy, Doug Bench. He did one of my recent podcasts. Much like your sleep person, I got a brain expert on my channel. His mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's 20 some years ago, and he's read over 100,000 pages about how the human brain works and different things. He's very well connected and knows Jack Canfield is a friend of his. He was a co-author of Chicken Soup for the Soul books, and so Doug has specific training on how to train your brain to perform at higher level for greater achievement. And like, for example, if you went to brainschool101.com, you're going to be able to get a whole bunch of valuable information for like $7 on how your brain works and how to maximize some of your brain activity and the actions and overcoming the fears and celebrating the wins and handling failure. So it all goes back to the science. Truthfully, we are perfect machines created by a perfect creator to work in a perfect symbiotic way with the universe in which we live. It's already designed perfectly. What you need to do is learn those lessons that have been laid down for centuries on how to go through life, right?
What did you dare to say to somebody who is, because I know I was in that place where I felt like my problems are unique. And whatever you're saying, it might work for you or somebody else that you're working with, but it doesn't work for me because, again, here's my list of reasons. What did you say to? Because I think it's something that I have realized, because like I would consume a lot of content, a lot of podcasts, and I see a lot of patterns, a lot of information repeating. and it's I would be like, I'm looking for that like one pillar, one thing that is that secret formula or whatever might be the case, where as if I'm this unique person with this unique problem that nobody else in the world has ever had. Which I'm not saying I'm not unique, but like just in general,
Mm-hmm.
I think we we kind of can get too self-centered with our problems sometimes. Um, is there something that can help to not kind of shift that perspective on it and do trust that maybe what you just shared, just maybe, it might work for me. Maybe it's worth for me to go check it out, go read about it, or watch it and
Mm-hmm.
consume it and see if I can apply it to my life and trust it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and here's the cool thing. I told you I'm 58. My mentor, Doug Bench, that I was just talking about, he was cured from COPD. His wife, he's got a beautiful story. You should check out the podcast. But um, he's in his 80s and has had a wonderful life. And one of the things that young people don't do enough is get counsel from their elders and listen about some of the things they regret they didn't do, some of the actions they did take and what happened. And that's an untapped resource. A lot of times I'll go into a business or interaction with someone between say 15 and 30, and I'm a dinosaur. And it's like, what is this old crusty guy doing talking to me at the front counter? Just give me your money and leave, sir, or whatever the dynamic might be, right? And I'm not trying to be ageist here, but sometimes young people don't see the power and value in us. What I'm telling you, I can help you avoid some of the stuff that you're going to experience over the next 58 years if you'd listen. But when we're young, and you mentioned it earlier, you have all the answers. So you ask less questions. So what's weird in your situation, you had all the answers and you were still incredibly curious, but then action started to happen and all of your life has changed in immeasurable ways. And now that the accountability piece that you mentioned, for you to go back and look at the transformation of yourself, that is very difficult. If you really want to move the needle in your life, I want you to get in the mirror. I want you to get face to face with yourself. Make sure you let yourself know that I love you. I believe in you. You're powerful, and your situation may be unique in your experience, but someone's already gone through it, and someone's probably going through a more difficult situation than you have right now. So step into gratitude. Love yourself. Feed yourself in your mind, body, soul, ears, and mouth with better stuff. Feed your senses with better information, people, food, what have you.
With loving yourself, I'm curious on your answer to this because I have asked it to several people, whether it's podcasts or conversations. What do you say to somebody who, not even talking about liking themselves, they're in a place where they hate themselves? That's the relationship they have with themselves or the place that they're at. What would you say to them?
Well, first of all, if they were on here right now, I would talk to them for 5 minutes and let them know the light that I see. So, I mean, if you're really in a place of darkness, you must surround yourself with light. And whether it's something funny or a great experience, or you go to dinner with a friend, or you go swimming, or you run a marathon, there's so many actions that can take you out of your head. And there's a difference between self-esteem issues and self-deprecation. Like, I believe I'm self-deprecating. I feel confident, but at the same time, I don't ever want to come across as arrogant, right? So hence the term self-deprecating. When we come to self-esteem issues, it's almost 100% from our past. Any unresolved trauma or lack of love or joy that impacted us to get to this point. Okay. So you want to embrace those events, maybe even relive them so you can put them away. I have a God box, so I can write a little prayer on my box, and my box says give it to God. And so I put it in my God box. And then, like I happen to write down a list of some of the deals and business I'm working on right now. And that list equals about $17,000, right? Will it all pan out? Will it all go according to plan? I don't know, but it's here now. My subconscious mind's like, oh, Tom, man, I'd love to make $3,000 on the Pocomoke City house, or whatever it is. And then that's another thing too. If you're really in deep darkness, I want you to get your thoughts on paper and then maybe walk outside and set the paper on fire. That's not who you are. That's who you think you are. If you let me see you in 5 minutes, I could see a light in you that you've never seen before. And that's why I took some time out with you specifically. I love the light you shine. I am glad I'm here with you right now. I could be doing any number of things and you could as well. So let's give each other the grace and the appreciation. I love that you have me here. And I just want to send a virtual hug to anyone that's in darkness, because the world's a better place with you in it, and it's an even better place with you in it, loving you and everyone else.
I have a question
Did
on.
that help? Was that?
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
I went off a little bit. You let me go. I appreciate it.
But I think it's also that with the dark place, it's I think in many ways it's also our relationship to it, and again managing expectations, where I think if we now expect to never be there, or we see it as this bad thing, it's in some ways it's hard to appreciate what can come with it. Like one example I have is with crying. My relationship with that has changed so much, where I remember like when I was back in UK like some years ago. I feel like I talk like I'm like 40. It was like probably 7 years ago.
Way back when, I remember.
Yeah,
What?
such a long time ago.
You had cars? Go ahead.
And I remember I was sitting on the floor, I was crying, and I had these visuals. I was crying where I would catch myself kind of observing. There was like this dark cloud where there was these negative thoughts circling around, and what I would do in the process of crying is I take one of them and I attach to them, or I take them in as if it's true, and now it makes me feel even worse about myself, and I start to cry even more, and I start to feel even worse. Instead of the way I look at it now is, even like during the good example is during my half Ironman prep, I was in the gym, I literally started to feel like I want to cry, and I'm pretty good at like awareness and scanning myself, where I'm like, is there any trigger? No, there's no trigger. Is it like gym anxiety? No, it's not gym anxiety. Okay, maybe there's just something coming up. And I was like, okay, I finished my workout. I'm going to get home and I'm going to do a cry. And the way I describe it now is like, I just look at it as it's emotions coming out. So I would sit down, I'd do a cry, and then I'm like, okay, is there anything else? Okay, a bit more. And I'm just kind of like letting it out. And I'm like, are we good? Okay, cool. I can move on with my day. But I'm actually in that moment, I'm feeling it. And even like when I got injured last year, I injured my ankle, and it was right before our first basketball game. And I haven't played basketball in 10 years. And I was so excited. I was so looking forward to it. I'm like one of the key players in the team. And just on that week on Tuesday, I injured my ankle, where the moment I injured, I knew that it's bad. I'm not going to walk tomorrow. And as I was getting home, I went through mini grief, because part of me was like, I still was looking forward to it. And I was so sad. I felt like I let my team down, and I knew I'm going to be out for at least 2 months. I won't be able to join to like the next games. And I think it's important when it comes to those negatives, if I would attach too much to it instead of allowing myself to be in it and look at it as this is the experience for me to go through, and also getting feedback of, because I went through something almost identical 10 years ago with my other ankle. And then I would push it and I would injure it again and again and again, which was like so painful. this time I was like, okay, maybe you need to slow down here and focus on the business side of things. Focus on that while you are recovering. I still would exercise as much as I could, but it was limited. So I
Mhm.
was like, okay, this season, while I'm recovering, let's focus on that instead.
Mhm.
While also going through that grief and allowing myself to grieve and be like, "Oh, I'm so sad about this." And especially the little me was like, I'm so looking forward to it. We can play again. And now I'm like, I can't, I'm out. And something about that has been really powerful where kind of like, I think my relationship to negative is much different, where I'm less afraid of it. And I'm also giving myself space, or I trust myself to be in it. And I think the more we trust ourselves to be in it, the less it's kind of like you don't attach to it. Because I think once we attach to it, now we start, it becomes stronger.
Mhm.
Instead of being in the moment, feel it. It does feel shitty. I don't like this. I don't want this to happen. It's not going the way I would want it to go.
Mhm.
But actually feel it, go through that, and then the next day, I was back to, but it wasn't even next day. It was like an hour later. I was like, okay, let's just, what's the plan now? And I think that's where the negative, or the relationships with the negative can get in a way where we have this expectation that once I never feel bad emotions, I will know I'm in a good place. And it's like, well, we're emotional beings. You're gonna feel emotions. You will have somebody trigger you, and you will have opportunities to learn through that. But it's that relationship with the negative. Do you have any advice there of like how to, or have you experienced it yourself that your relationship to the negative or to certain feelings or to certain experiences has shifted over the years?
Most definitely. Yeah, as I continue to grow and learn, the negative really I don't sit in it long. Do I have negative thoughts? Do I have negative emotions? Do I cry if something's really bothering me? I'm an empath. I'm a Cancer. I'm a very sensitive man by nature. I just am, you know, and uh, the things that have really helped me get out, and I know it's going to sound silly to some, put your damn feet in the grass, shut off your mind, and be grateful that you're alive. And when I say gratitude, I'll take it even one step further. Some people cannot see, they cannot eat, they cannot drink, they cannot have a physical relationship with someone of the opposite sex. There's so many things that people are unable to do that you can do, and you're not even grateful for them. You take them all for granted. The fact that you and I can have a beautiful conversation, complete strangers some weeks ago, and be having a freaking blast, that's what it's all about. It's finding the light in your darkness, embrace your darkness, because that's where growth comes from as well. You know, growth can come out of beautiful, awful pain, because all of your life experience is to help you grow, change, and possibly improve. And I think we overthink so much, and we have to get back to basics. You know, if you have friends and family that you know, love, and trust, and you're having a moment, you know, our first thought is, gosh, I don't want to bother anyone with my shit. But you know what? There's someone right there right now who may need just to give good advice right now, and they can't figure out who to give it to. God said you need to touch someone today, and that person knows they're ready to touch you, and they don't. And that was a divine appointment that you missed. So stop shrinking into the negative and realize that you are here for a reason. You're a miracle. Do you know how unlikely it is for you to become an actual human being? Just the process? Do you know the math? There's like millions, and you know the possibilities. There's millions of possibilities, and then it became you. So I would say surround yourself with good people. If you're really in a dark place, you know, watch funny movies, go for a walk, scream, play some rockin' music that just get it out. You know, there's a song by Limp Bizkit that's got awful lyrics in it, And every once in a while, I'm in a crunchy, like, just mood, and I'll put it on, and one of the lines in there is awful. And I don't ever want to do this to anybody, but when I shout it out, it's empowering and it releases the anger, release the sadness, release the anger, because you're here for a reason. And just because you're 20 or 25 or 30 or 40 or 50 and you haven't figured it out yet, that's okay. Give yourself a freaking break, especially for the mistakes and decisions you made yesterday.
Speaking on you talking to youngsters, what would be your advice to a younger generation?
Detach from technology more and hug, kiss, love, run, and play more with your friends. Um, Dance, sing, shout, holler, scream. These are all actions that have nothing to do with technology. I firmly believe that the smartphone was designed to disconnect us from one another, and it's worked. It's worked. I was not raised in technology. When I was 15, I had a Walkman, but there was no CDs yet. There was no, Facebook. There was no social media. There's no phone, cell phones. And we played and we fought and we hit the baseball or played football, or as in Europe, soccer, football, and that's what we did. We all hung out with each other and communed and played games and went in the woods and whatever. And then we went into school, and then we lose it. So, I mean, if you can keep 5 close friends, consider yourself lucky. Most people, when they're in high school, they think they have a lot of friends. No, you have hundreds of acquaintances, and you probably have 3 friends. But these other 10 people are kind of friends. So my advice is get into life the way it was designed for you in the first place. And that's human interaction, love, contribution, collaboration, manifestation, visualization, and communication.
Communication, interaction, and even like with social media is a big one. But one thing that I have noticed is that my generation and younger, since we grew up with a lot of technology and social media, we do lack a lot of social skills, communication skills, engaging with each other. And even like funny example is, I don't like to call. I will message, but I don't like to call. And it's something that I have noticed. It's a generational thing, because my mom is like, just call me. Call me, we can talk it through, or whatever might be the case. For me, it's quicker to message. And then I go on with the day or whatever is kind of like what I'm used to. But also one thing that I have noticed is that with, and I can speak from perspective of being somebody who's like ambitious, driven, and that kind of stuff, you can get to the place where it's isolating, where you get so focused on what you're doing and building that it's kind of like, I was in a place where I wouldn't prioritize time with family. I wouldn't prioritize time with like other people. And it's something that I have noticed a lot of people do that, uh, where they get so focused on the career, where it feels like now it becomes the priority. Where I had a conversation with one person, and we talked something about, I said that like whenever I can, I try to go back home, and even when I'm there, I always visit everybody, like my grandma, my parents, my brothers, and I'm intentionally being present, instead of like I'm physically there, but I'm not there, like actually there.
Mm-hmm.
And he said it's so refreshing to meet somebody who is younger and still value that, or intentionally find time for that and can be present. And for me, it was interesting feedback, or kind of introspective moment, where I was like, yeah, like how many young people actually prioritize that or want to even like go and spend time with their family or their parents or get to know their parents, ask questions. I have had so many interesting questions every time that I go um, and meet even like my grandma last time. She shared so many interesting stories that I was like, wow, this is so interesting. And I get to know her deeper level. Same thing with my parents. I actually get to know them as people, not just as my parents. But a lot of it is actually spending time with those people, having conversations, not just the family, also other people like friends. And another thing that I have noticed is that whenever I go home, or even like when I go and play basketball with my teammates, or we go to some tournaments or something, it's kind of like my nervous system regulates itself. Where by the time I'm back, I'm really calm. I feel like I'm much more level. I'm not as like spiky when it comes to like kind of feeling some stresses, or I feel grounded. And I know that big part of it has been that connection. And it's not even like connection where we have these like deep conversations and there's breakthroughs. It's just the presence of having those people that are important to you. I have I have strongly experienced that personally, but again, not to sound like old person, but it took me a while to get there. And I am grateful that I am in that place relatively young, because I think actually what helped me with that was Jesse Itzler, where he said that if you think you have 20 years with your parents, you don't. You have maybe 40 times if you visit them twice a year. That's all you have. It's 40 times with them. That's it. And that's where like whenever I would have like even like calls with my mom, I would be like, you already told this like 5 times, or I would get like kind of annoyed about something. I would be like, there'll be a time that I'm gonna miss this. There'll be a day that I wish I could listen to this conversation, feel the way I feel, which might be frustrated, annoyed, or whatever might be the case, depending on the day. But there'll be a day that I'm gonna miss this, and that's where reminding that helps me to be grounded and be kind of grateful. But it's something that I have seen that is one of the things that I think a lot of my generation are. I don't want to say struggling with, maybe like lacking, or they don't see it as valuable or as important, or it might take them something profound or something, whether it's maybe hopefully some kind of piece of content or something that gives them that idea of the importance of it. Can you talk on the importance of connection and people in your life, and what have you noticed when it comes to the younger generation when it comes to this?
Well, it's interesting you say that. I actually went to dinner last night with my wife, my sister-in-law, her daughter, who is 13, and my mother-in-law, their mother, and my 13-year-old's grandmother. So my niece said a couple of times at the table, I'm so bored. I mean, we're just there to have a meal for 20 minutes. I mean, I don't know how much we have to entertain you. And then she FaceTime with her friend at the table and stuff like that. And I'm like, you know, if her mom and grandmother aren't going to say anything, I'm not going to say anything, because they're treating me to dinner. They're like, come out to dinner. I'm going to treat you. I'm like, okay, great. So the thing is, this instant gratification mode has been built by the machine, the matrix, the TV, mainstream media worldwide. Get it now, get it now. You got to have it now. Sell, 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 buy, buy, buy. Clothes, lipstick, music, shoes, whatever it might be. That has nothing to do with living and loving and connecting at all. This is not a material world. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. When you pass, you will pass into another form of energy. And the only time that exists is right now. There is no yesterday and there is no tomorrow. There are memories of the past, and there is, by definition, yesterday and tomorrow. But the only time that exists is this very moment that you and I are talking to each other. The very moment that someone is listening to this, viewing this tomorrow or the next day, while they're viewing it, that's the only time that exists. So my advice would be, again, life is all about balance. If you're on your phone 10 hours a day, cut it back to 5. Go have lunch with a friend. Call your mom. Go get on Facebook or FaceTime with your mom, Zoom, whatever it might be. Most people are so caught up in doing what everyone else is doing that they don't realize what they're doing. Like, kids are texting each other while they're sitting in the same room. They're sitting next to each other, texting each other. I've heard that multiple times. And there's something wrong with that. All I'm saying is that for you to, and this is the easy statement for me, for you to have your superpowers, you must connect to source, to energy, to God, to the universe, what have you. So anyway, if I could, I just wanted to say, if you are a young person or a younger person or a younger person than me, one of the things that I would recommend that you consider doing is cutting down on your literal smartphone time. Just cutting down on your smartphone time, and go to lunch with friends, call your mom, get out in nature. Um, and because that's where the experience is, that's where the living is. When you are on your deathbed and you're hopefully 100 years old, I want you to be so grateful that you enjoyed the human experience, because those people that you know, love, and trust are going to hopefully be surrounding you with love as you transition and your energy goes somewhere else. And it leaves I call it a meat suit. We're all wearing these meat suits, but we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And so the only time that exists is the present. The only time that exists is right now. The time that you and I are sharing with each other, this is the only time that exists between us. Anyone watching this in the future, and they're literally watching my words that I just said, that's the only time that exists for them. Okay? And so anything can happen between now and tomorrow. There's a great book called the Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Um, and if you really make it granular, start recognizing everything. Look at your webcam, look at your mouse, look at your phone, look at your face in this video, look at your who I'm talking to. I'm looking at you. Be in that moment and that experience, because technology is designed to get your attention. And where your energy goes, where your energy goes, attention flows, however you want to put it, right? But if you're constantly focusing your energy on things that don't serve your soul or your mission, you'll be in the same place tomorrow, next year, and 5 years from now. But at the same time, technology is a very, very powerful tool, and you can learn a lot from it. You can listen to meditations and audiobooks and awesome videos. But I'm just saying that every life is always about a balance, isn't it?
Yeah. Before I ask you the last question, I actually wanted to touch on something we talked off recording before about what you said, that you have noticed that younger generation is more selfish. Can you talk on that?
Um, I'm not going to say necessarily. I guess selfish is the word. I would say more self-absorbed.
Or like
You know,
self-centered?
yeah, more people. Because attention is the new currency. So a lot of people are looking to get attention. Look at me, look at me, look at me. Well, that's not how humanity is designed. The attention kind of unfolds from the service and the doing and the fun and the laughing and the adding value to others. That's where attention naturally comes from. This is fake attention, some of it. You and I are sincerely having a very, very great conversation, and we would love to get attention and eyes and views, but we don't do it for the attention, the eyes and views. We do it out of the love for the value we believe we're adding to humanity right now. Right. So, just experience everything. You're young and you're beautiful and you're full of energy and excitement. Go give it out. Go spend some time with someone in a nursing home, and just bring them some light and energy. And maybe you walk out the door with some wisdom. How cool would that be? Would that be a fair energy exchange? I'm 80. You came in and made my day, and I gave you 3 pearls of wisdom to take on your way.
It's a one thing that I have noticed, because when I was doing the research, or like when I was studying sports psychology, one of the things that I did look into was the self-esteem, the shame, guilt, and those emotions. And I think the self-centeredness a lot, or partly it's also from conversations I have had with others. It's coming from that we are in this loop where, especially young people, once they get into social media, and I was going through that because I started posting my content like quite early. It was with the intention to help and inspire. But it gets to the point where I remember there was one time when I was posting, I wanted to post a story with me just having finished the swim. And I wanted to take that picture. And I was like, why am I doing it? Is it to actually inspire, or is it for me to now feel good about myself? And it's kind of like, I think if you grow up with social media, you learn to draw your sense of value from what others give you, likes, comments, or how they make you feel online, which is designed to be addictive. Instead of focusing on why am I doing it? Why am I posting it? And where am I actually getting my value from? Which a lot of times is from and it's also easier and less uncomfortable than doing the hard work to build yourself, build your confidence, build your skills. And it's kind of like that vicious loop that I caught myself getting into, where I had to take a few years off social media and not posting consistently to actually connect with myself, work on myself, and kind of detach from it, so that when I do show up, I have no attachment, where like my worth is not attached to how many people like me or how many people leave comments, whether they're nice or not nice. Either case, they don't define me as a person. And I think that's something that I have seen a lot, is that you also compare your not normal, but like your humanness with everybody's perfect image of themselves that they post online, which adds on top of it. But that's something that I wanted to add, that I have noticed and experienced as well myself in my experiences. Last question I have to you is, what is the impossible that you're chasing now?
Um, with this podcast, I want to help people who are in struggle with food, housing, clothing, healthcare, online training skills. Because I created the podcast because I was inspired by Josh. He's one of the guys who goes into different places and says how much for a pizza, and then he goes and buys 50 and then gives the pizza out to the homeless, which I think is a beautiful thing, right? And I'm like, but some want and deserve more, and some don't want more, and that's okay. Some have grown accustomed to living in a tent, and that's okay. That's what they choose to do. There are some people in there who are in that experience or loop, that just need a chance or someone to believe in them. I believe in everybody. I believe that if you're a sinner, whether it's a hard drug or you're embezzling money from your company, you're a sinner. There is no weight on sin. There is no level on your badness or bad deeds. They're all equally, weighted, if you will, in the eyes of God and the universe. So my big thing is, I don't feel it's impossible, but I'm chasing something that I've envisioned, and I see the vision in my head for what it would look like, where I'm creating these self-sufficient, farms, and there are tiny houses, and everybody's got a cool ass tiny house with Wi-Fi and heat and air, and now they've got their own 8x40 shipping container producing microgreens so they can all feed each other and then sell the leftovers to other people and whatever. Community, common unity is what humanity is about.
I love that. All right. Well, thank you for coming on this really valuable conversation, which I'm sure not only I got a lot from it, but listeners did as well. If somebody wants to learn more about you, what you do, where can they find you?
Well, I'm all over social media on multiple channels, but on YouTube, it's simply True Life Show with Tom, and my email is True Life with Tom at Gmail is my email address, and the True Life and truelifewithtomshow.com is my website. But yeah, my name is pretty common, but I don't think there's a whole lot I've found on social media. But I live in Maryland and been an entrepreneur for a long time. I love people. I think women are smarter and better than men on many, many levels, and I adore them as a group. And I believe that it's part of my responsibility to love, protect, adore, and treasure the female form and women in general. And I have a lot of respect for myself and men as well. And I just think at the end of the day, if we love ourselves, we can give that which we possess. And that Dr. Wayne Dyer I mentioned earlier, I'm going to mention him again. You cannot give that which you do not have. So I thank you for having me. And this was a blast. And I have done multiple episodes and interviewed other people. You're impressive and you're
Thank you.
beautiful and you're smart. And I'm so thankful for you. And I want to say before I leave, namaste, my friend.
Namaste.